If you think you've been doing all the right things in your business and you're still feeling stuck and you suspect that something deeper might be going on and you're not able to pinpoint it, well, you might be right about the deeper. And I think this episode is gonna be juicy, really juicy, because I have somebody on it that I believe, sees things that no one else can. And welcome to the new episode on the From Grind to Grace podcast, the podcast for the alternative entrepreneurs. I like saying the entrepreneur who is ready to flip the script, challenge the norms, and choose freedom first. Because when you stop grinding for freedom and start creating from freedom, success just tags along for the ride. And the mission is to make this the new standard in the industry for you, for your children, and for humanity. The big question is how? How do you do it? And that's what this podcast is about. So now I want to welcome my amazing guest with a beautiful energy. When we met, we clicked straight away. We had a good laugh. It was so fun. So welcome, Vicki. Her name is Vicki Chisholm. So very welcome, Vicki. I'm so excited for you being here as my guest. And I know, this is gonna be spicy. And just as a quick intro, if you could say a few words about you.
Hi, Adita. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. It's an absolute pleasure to have met you, to have connected with you, and to be here today. Oh, gosh. Okay, where do we start? So, in a nutshell, my business is all about psychic business strategy and getting businesses out of the funk and into the flow. Now, why would I do that? What would even possess me to do that? A lot of people ask. Well, it wasn't something that I chose. It was something that just is a part of me that I couldn't ignore anymore. And the more I leaned into allowing my gifts to channel solutions for business owners and to help them strategize the next steps, whether that be setting up a lead gen funnel and attraction lead magnet, or whether that be giving them a strategy to go global. It was just my brain gets excited with finding these different ways that align to the business owner rather than it being just a very tick box. We have to do it this way because that's what works. Well, there are lots and thousands of strategies out there that work, but it's about finding the right strategy for you, for your business, for your energy type, for your personality type, for your business model, for your dream clients as well. I mean, there's no point doing a strategy if it's just not going to light you up and make you feel good. But it is a little bit controversial what I do, and that's okay. We don't like to do things the same as everybody else. Otherwise, we'd all be sheep and we'd all just follow one person and life would be so dull and boring, right? So, my role in the world is to uplift, empower, and strengthen spiritual entrepreneurs to lean into those ideas, lean into who they really are, activate that voice of inner wisdom, overpowering the inner critic, and structuring the business in a way that they can serve more people. Rather than keeping communities small and closed here, you can spread your wings, you can fly, you can increase your visibility, you can get seen, you can get heard, you can get hired. And through my years, I've been in business now for over 12 years, multi-award winner, I've got my own podcast, I've written my book. I've done all of these things. I've had epic fails, epic mistakes I've made. But yeah, I've also had a lot of triumphs too. And one of the things that I realized with my first business was I didn't want to burn out and do all the things anymore. I wanted a simplified way. So I remember one day writing in my dream journal. So I call it my dream day journal. And when I was heavily into journaling, I just wrote down, I said, what do I want like my perfect working day to be? And I specifically remembering writing, well, I wake up when I want and I start my morning the way that I want to with choice. And I've been living that life for the last 3 years. And I didn't even realize I was living it until the other day. And I went, oh, look how lucky I am because I get to do this. And I just, because it's become such a habit, I'd forgotten that one day that was a dream of mine. You know, my life isn't ruled and dictated by alarm clocks anymore. So it's about learning how you want to be and structuring your business model to enable you to really lean in. So a lot of my clients will come to me and their initial first words are, I want to earn 10K months. I'm like, really? Why? Well, because that's what everyone else is doing. I'm like, well, okay. But is 10K going to be enough for you to scale, grow, succeed, do all the good that you want to do? And then we start unpicking things. Now, I can generally see where a client's going to go before they can. So I get the opportunity to guide them to questions to help them get to that point of what I can see for them. But they don't know I'm doing that. I see their potential before they do, but I help them realize it themselves. I don't just give it to them
Yes.
on a plate. So, yes, that's me. I am a psychic business strategist. I've been in business for over 12 years. I'm also a mum. I've got 3 beautiful girls. They're all teenagers now, mind you. I've also got a dog, and I just love being in nature, riding motorbikes, and doing all the things that light me up.
I know, and I mean, I love everything about what you just said, and my head is buzzing with questions.
Hey, go.
You know, I just need to remember them all, but we'll see how it goes. And I did see you on a motorbike. You have that on your website,
Yeah,
right? I
that
don't
was my
drive, but
first
I do
love.
my second half, he does, and I hop on the back from time to time as well. So I relate in a way.
Yeah.
Motorbikes are definitely part of our life as a family here. So yeah, like I said, many questions. But first, I think, tell me a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about your life before you leaned or starting, understanding that leaning into your gifts and into who you really are is
Yeah.
the key. And so what your life looked like, what struggles maybe you had, and also what clicked and why.
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking this question as well. It's good for me to revisit it every now and again. Okay, so I've always had gifts. I just didn't understand them or know what they were. So at the age of 13, I would have dreams that were premonitions. And within 6 months, those dreams would be true. And in reality, with the exact same people, the same colors of walls, the same environments, and it would be like I'd been projected into the future. But then when I was in that moment in the future, I would be like freezing, going, oh, okay, this is what my mind was trying to tell me of where I was going to be. Um, and there was all kinds of different things that would happen. But through life, it wasn't really safe for me to lean into it, to feel and explore spiritualism. It
Mm-hmm.
became it was very shut down by everybody around me. Oh, you're just getting brainwashed. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. Oh, don't be silly. Loads of people have dreams. It's just deja vu. Get over yourself. And it impacted my confidence and my ability to trust in it. But more importantly, it impacted my ability to trust myself. It made me feel like I was not, it made me feel like I was mentally ill because I could see and feel things that other people couldn't. And it's not in traditional medical terms, it's not picked up on. Things are changing now, and GPs are actually starting to lean into, well, actually, that there are spiritual involvements, blah, blah, blah. But back then that wasn't a thing. And my partner from the age of 17 was an atheist. So every single time I tried to lean in and explore to the things, and I was like a magnet, like a little magpie, whether it be Reiki or chakras or, you know, going to psychic medium evenings. I loved all that stuff. I just deeply, deeply loved it. It was like there's something here that I might be missing. And I just felt really drawn to it. But anyway, through the years, I couldn't really lean into it. So I didn't. But one of the main stories that shut me down from it was when I went to see a psychic medium. And I was maybe about 19, 20. And I was just sitting in the chair and he was telling me stuff that nobody else could have known, which was all fine and well until my body froze in the chair. I could hear, I could see, I could barely speak, but I could not move my body. It was like I was paralyzed. And there was basically a situation within the room where a spirit had tried to enter my body and my guide had tried to stop it, but in that moment I'd disassociated from what was happening. So the medium was very well versed and he was able to deal with the situation. But from that point, because I was so young, didn't have anyone to talk to, wasn't really getting on with the spiritual circles that I'd been suggested to go to, I just shut down my gifts because I didn't trust what was happening and I didn't feel safe. So we fast forward a few years and I finally got the support that I needed to recognize that I was in an abusive relationship because I was in complete denial. A strong woman like me, don't be so ridiculous. What are you talking about? I'm not being beaten and punched, you know, and that's not the case. But actually, the psychological, emotional, financial, and sexual abuse is a lot worse. But I didn't see it because I was so isolated and didn't know better. And it was a business coach that I was working with and loved dearly. She could see the emotional pressure and stress that I was under. And she did a healing session with me based on subconscious reprogramming of the brain, using energy to rewire the beliefs to enable me to reclaim my power. That one EFT session gave me the strength to quit and give notice on the relationship. So I gave 6 months notice, 48 hours after that session. And then I think it was in about 6 months or so I'd left the relationship. So that then opened up my journey, and that's where I truly began to learn different things. But it wasn't until 2016 when I'd burnt out. So I'd burnt out to the point of closing down my business. I was lone parenting,
And what caused that burnout?
because I'd left the abusive relationship. I was co-parenting with someone who was psychologically abusive. I was running a business on my own, managing staff. My daughter had life-threatening condition, special educational needs, and I was on my own. And it became very, very difficult to manage it all. But also, after a year of being in, I called it my autopilot year. So when I left the relationship, I didn't go into any grief or recovery healing. I just powered through. I was homeless for 5 months with my children. There was a lot that I had to work through.
How hard that must have been, homeless with children.
Yeah, it was really, really challenging. I didn't have any other choice. I couldn't stay any longer. So we stayed with family and friends until we got relocated, until we got a home of our own again. And so I did like a whole year of recalibration, and then it got to a point where my body was shutting down with the business, my daughter's health scare, and I just had nothing left to give. I'd reached the end of the line of pushing through, and my body was forcing me to stop. We need you to stop. We need you to heal. We need you to recover. We need you to get back on your feet. And the only way we're going to do that is if we actually stop you on your tracks.
I think it's such an important point, what you just said. You had nothing left to give. I think for so many entrepreneurs, I think I really want them to hear this. And I was in a similar place as well, in terms of nothing to give because we don't put priorities on ourselves,
No,
you
I
know.
didn't know how. I didn't
So
know how
how
to
can you
prioritize.
serve even in terms of business, let alone family? How can you serve and deliver value to the marketplace if you've none inside
Yeah,
of, I mean, you do, but it's hidden, it becomes hidden, right?
absolutely. And I I had reached that point where I wasn't broken, I was empty. And I had to reserve every inch of energy that I had to support my three children. One who was going through extensive medical needs, one that two of them that were struggling to deal with the fact that the mummy and daddy had split up. And it just got to the point where you have to think, what's more important right now, to keep a business afloat or try and keep my family alive, you know? Um, so I hit the deck, I hit the sofa. I got up in the morning, took my kids to school, sorted them out, came home, I hit the sofa, and that lasted for 3 months. My entire life, I have never been a sit down and do nothing person. So I knew there was something drastically wrong. I did 16 weeks of psychotherapy. I walked in and I walked out, and I was no change, nothing, not even a mindset shift. There was nothing. And that scared me. So I went back to my GP and said, I need help because the traditional methods are not helping. I don't know what else to do. I don't know where else to go. They tried several medications and I didn't understand what I was going through at the time because there wasn't anybody to guide me. So I was very much alone. And then I reached out to a colleague and just said, I think I need to learn EFT because if that one session that I had with my business coach can change my life in that respect, now it's time for me to change my health.
And so EFT, when you say EFT, what does it stand for the
EFT,
listener?
yeah, it's emotional freedom technique. It's a Chinese acupressure where we use the meridian points with the thoughts in your body and the energetics of emotion, and we shift what the beliefs are and transform them into something else. So at this point in my life, I had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, complex PTSD, which was undiagnosed. I was suffering with burnout. I was exhausted in all avenues and raising three children whilst co-parenting and then having to navigate courts. My There was so much going on. I do sometimes look back and think, how on earth did I do that? So I started training with EFT and then I went into Reiki and I just gave it everything I had because my kids needed a mum. And that was it. There was no stopping me.
So, wow, what a story. And one thing that stood out for me, what I was thinking when you were telling about your struggles, the colors and the nuances of someone's personal life that nobody else knows anything about. And so that brings me back to thinking about how our industry is functioning and all advice that you keep hearing. And I don't want to mention names, but just recently I've been hearing something along the lines of if you're not, almost like if you're not in the 5 a.m. club, or if you are not outworking everyone else, you are pretty much a loser and it's your fault that you are not getting these results and whatever. And basically, it just actually pains me just thinking about it because everyone, and that's somebody who says that they don't have a family, they
Yeah.
don't have children. So, but the impression that we get, people get from all this advice is that they are losers. I am a loser because I am not doing these things that they are telling me to do because I'm not capable. And they even miss their own personal situation that is might be very, very different from those, who are saying those things, giving that advice.
Yeah. So that it does literally make my blood boil. It makes my blood boil because the messages that are going out to people are really detrimental and are going to cause people to not only burn out, but mental health will decline. So this is why I do what I do in terms of teaching spiritual entrepreneurs the difference between having an aligned business structure and a traditional throw together business. There's no point doing what somebody else wants you to do if it's not in alignment with your goals, your vision, your passion, your mission, your leadership style, your personality traits. If you are running a business which is not in alignment with how you truly want it to be, then you are already set up to fail.
Or what you are capable of. It's
Yeah,
very easy, you know,
yeah.
to punish people for not doing this or that, but their circumstances might be completely different. And
Yeah, but
yes, certain circumstances matter.
who are they to even consider punishing people or putting them down because they don't have the same situation? I mean, it's absolutely absurd. Nobody has the right to punish anybody else based on what they can and cannot achieve. And we all have a duty of care to support human beings. And this is what gets, this is where I get a real bee in my bonnet.
Yeah, and I know the whole idea of modeling somebody, finding someone who has what you have and, you know, doing what they are doing. First of all, how do you even know if they have what you want?
Well,
Like you
no,
like, okay,
because
maybe they
people,
have the millions, then maybe they don't have the lifestyle.
well, I think it's all very, I think you need to listen to your intuition. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all you've got. Because you've got people that will go out there and they will hire Lamborghinis to showcase the I've got a Lamborghini, therefore I've made X amount of money. Hello, you've just hired it for your photo shoot, and we're very aware that you've just done that. You know, it's about discernment. And this is why I get really, really passionate about people understanding who they are. Because when you understand who you are, when you understand that vibration of that little niggle in your mind going, I'm not sure you can actually listen and trust this person, but then you doubt yourself. My work is about eradicating that doubt and just trusting it. Trust,
Mhm.
trust, and trust no one else but yourself. The
Yeah.
sooner you do that, the more empowered you will be in life and in business. But also, it will keep you on your own pathway. Your own pathway. Why get distracted by every Tom, Dick, and Harry that actually they don't know your mission? They don't know what you are here to do. They don't know what your true passion is or your personality type, how you want to show up. I mean, even worse than that, I get clients that come to me and they're trying to strive for 10K months and it's not even in alignment with who they are because their journey is just to live a comfortable life doing the things that they love. They don't want the extravagance of abundant cash flow because it's just not in alignment with who they are. And that frustrates me because they've been pushed and shoeboxed into this little corner of, well, you need to go and generate that. Well, no,
Mhm.
you don't. You need to think about what it is you do want. If you reach your first hurdle, your first goal point, and you get really comfortable there, and then you decide you want to scale, and that's your path and that's your journey, then that there is no shame in that. No, none whatsoever. Being an entrepreneur does not make you a business owner. Being an entrepreneur means you get to be creative and do things you want to do. But if you want to have if you want to have a business, a structural, traditional business, then you do that in a different way.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about what it means to be an entrepreneur. So in my opinion is serving, solving problems, you know, but if you don't know who you are, you can't serve well. And I would like to go back, like, I would like to go back to your story a little bit, the point of how, when, you know, you reached that breakthrough, what caused it, what happened, what did you realize, what did you find, what happened then?
Yeah, so once I started doing the training to help myself feel better and get back to a normal existence for my children, I I had a lot of insight. I suddenly realized that, and it took me a long time to really accept it, but I'd had snippets of, oh, that's what abuse is. Oh, okay. And then whilst we were trying to figure out what was wrong with me during the recovery period, I started researching because the traditional methods weren't working for me and I didn't understand why. If I've got a mental health condition, why are the traditional methods not helping me? Because they should be, if that is what's wrong with me.
Mhm.
So I started questioning and questioning and questioning, which I believe was my intuition telling me that there's more to the story than what I can see. And I started doing the research, and what was actually wrong with me was I had complex PTSD from 12 years of domestic abuse, coercive control, psychological damage, and the traditional methods hadn't picked it up. It was when I leaned into a charity here in the UK called Women's Aid,
Mm.
and they supported me with a program called the Freedom Project. And that Freedom Project gave me the insight to see. And it was like, oh my gosh, all of these characteristics, all of these behaviors are just so down to the T. I was like, how would you know someone would do that? Because no one would believe me. If I was to say something, no, and then you suddenly read this book and it was all there plain as day. It was like someone had just cracked me open and went, there's actually nothing wrong with you. You have been abused. And I had to really work on the acceptance of that because I was very much in denial. Even with the black and white information in front of me, I was still in denial, but a little bit of acceptance was coming through. And that led me down another rabbit hole of research. And that research led me to see that actually it wasn't just domestic abuse and it wasn't just my mind was screwed from it, long-term trauma. I was actually experiencing complex PTSD, which nobody had diagnosed and nobody had picked up on through all the psychologists, through all of the medical intervention, through all of the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the medication, the toing and throwing. Not one person had picked up
This
that
is so interesting, and I'm sorry. This is so interesting, and I am not an expert, and I don't know, but in my, vague understanding,
Mm,
the thing about diagnosing about PTSD and things like that, they only pay attention to those things when they know you've experienced something very specific, like, you've been to a war, you fought in the
mm,
war, or,
yeah.
something, or I don't know, you escape, your house was on fire, or I don't know, whatever, something very specific, but they don't, I think it's overlooked. Let
It
me
has
know.
been very much so, but I mean, when this was happening to me, this was like 8 years ago. Things have
Yeah,
evolved quite a lot since then. But
right.
when I started doing the research, Google became my best friend, and I found so many statistics of women that had left domestic abuse were misdiagnosed with mental health conditions when in fact they had PTSD. And all of a sudden, I was on a mission. I was like, well, that is not going to happen to me now. I know what's wrong with me. I am going to recover and overcome all of these problems. And within two
That's yet
years,
another th- yet another ingredient to the mix of in terms of what we are saying. If you are hearing this advice, you are not doing a job good enough. If you're not part of the 5 p.m., 5 a.m. club or whatever, it's your fault. What about, so that one thing is the circumstances, but the other thing is your mental, situation as well.
totally,
Wow.
absolutely. But within 2 years of starting my journey with energy healing, I had overcome the symptoms of fibromyalgia. I had cleared the symptoms of debilitating anxiety. I could walk down a road without looking over my shoulder anymore. I was, I wasn't completely free of everything, but I was so much freer from the chronic fatigue, the fibromyalgia, the chronic pain that I was living in every day. I still had a long way to go, but the 2 years changed my life in a
Mhm.
way that the medical and the traditional methods never could. So this is what got me started into the spiritual journey of one, trusting that nudge from within me. And I called that my intuition of saying there's something else that they're missing here and I've got to find it. And I found it with black and white evidence that I was just another fucking statistic. And that was okay, but I needed that information to be able to grow and move forward. So I did. And then everything changed. Literally everything changed. My confidence grew. I was traveling on my motorbike. And with business wise, I decided to come back to business after swearing I would never, ever, ever be in business ever again after burning out and nearly like, you know, being so weak and down. I decided that it was time to come back and help other women. So I created a program called Turn Your Pain into Passion, which dealt with trauma, which dealt with the mind. And in 2020, whilst we were dealing with the pandemic, I was changing women's lives forever. And that was the most empowering moment I think I'd ever had. And then the business just kept growing from there. So we had the Turn Your Pain into Passion, which is the personal development. I then created a 28 Days to Personal Power program, which to this day is still changing lives. I then moved into like, I felt like I was getting a bit drained working on just trauma all the time. So I just felt I'm not sure this is where I'm supposed to be, but I've done my piece here to support others, but it's time for me to shift slightly. So I just asked, I said, where do you want me to go? What is it you want me to do? And they were like, well, we need you back in business. I was like, oh, okay. So I came back to business, business growth, business development, business coaching. And then I worked with a coach. She was very psychically awake. And she just said, Vicki, you are really undervaluing who you are and what you do. You're turning up to every session with the masterminders. You're channeling strategy for all of the group. You are leaning in and you need to own the fact that you're a strategist and you're using coaching skills, you're using experience, you've got all of this behind you, but you really need to own who you are. And then I did. I was like, okay, I owned it, and it has just grown and grown and grown from that point. But I didn't realize I was this. I didn't realize I was psychic. I didn't put it down to psychic. I put it down to intuition. I put it down to, oh, I don't know. I just feel what the client needs, and then I just make it happen. And she made me really sit back and think about my gifts. So when I was running the VA business, so I was doing business development, systems, marketing, sales, and all of that stuff. But one of my clients came to me, she had a real estate business, and I didn't have a clue about estate agencies, you know, from a business perspective. I only knew it from, you know, when I'd rented properties in the past. And she had sent me this documentation. It was a PR article. And she said, I want you to type this up because we're going to go to the papers with it. And as I typed it, I was like, this is horrific. We cannot send this to the papers. But I couldn't go against my client's wishes. So what I did instead was I wrote a PR article on her behalf and kept it back for her. So I sent her the one that she'd asked for, waited for her feedback. And she said, yeah, we can't use that. It's just not right. And I said, I did think you'd feel that. So I've rewritten it in a different format and in a different way. I sent it over to her. And that one article that I'd written on her behalf went out through TV, radio, newspapers. It was everywhere. But what I didn't realize in that moment was my gift was being able to tap into our higher power to know what she needed and how to write it. I had channeled that. It wasn't just something I pulled out of my brain and put to paper. It was information from something else. And it was only then that when my coach was saying to me, but you're psychic, Vicki, it was only then that I started to realize that, oh, that's what I was doing. I was channeling for my
So what is the difference? How do you know where, if that's intuition or that's your psychic abilities?
Because intuition is, it's like a niggle. And intuition is like a little tiny knowing. But for me to sit and actually channel a whole PRR,
Proactively extract
which is
the
information.
wisdom. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, information, knowledge, a vision. And when I look back to how I worked so well with my clients, and they were like, oh, she's very intuitive. She knows exactly what you need. No, she's psychic, which is why she knows what you need. Intuition is not the same. So when I look back to the day that I wrote that PR article, and I don't know why it's stuck in my mind, but it just has. It was almost as if I was disassociated in the moment. I was just writing the information that was flowing to me, but it wasn't me doing it. And that's the difference between psychically channeling information and just being intuitive. It's not even just being intuitive, because that's a massive gift in itself, but you've got to learn to trust that intuition as well. So there's a long journey that goes with it, and it's not an overnight thing. It's a gift that you develop. So like I shut mine down for so long, lots of people shut it down and ignore it, but there are different types of gifts. So my gift is claircognizant, where I just have a knowing, and I don't know how I know, I just know. And that is a feeling that it also comes through as a feeling. So I work on clairsentient. I'm not necessarily clairvoyant, as in I don't, well, I am clairvoyant, but I don't work in that way. So I don't talk to people's relatives and family members, but I do talk to spirit in a different way. So it's really about you navigating your own spiritual path and then allowing you to bring that into your business to maximize your strengths. And that's where my work comes in, because the clients that come to me, I'm not going to give them the answers, but I will help them find the answers. I might know, and I might have the vision, and I might have the knowledge, and I might say, oh, okay, I've just received this information. I'm going to leave it with you to play with. And they'll go, oh, I've been thinking about doing that. And I'm like, oh, so you needed that confirmation today? They're like, yeah, like, right, okay. So it's about, for me, it's really important that we don't do a rescue thing, because if I step into a rescuing mode with my client, I'm taking away their power to do things on their own, and I'm making them codependent. And
Yeah, I guess key is to get them to internalize that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Wow, that is very cool. Okay, so what happened then? Okay, so you understood your gifts. You know what I want to maybe touch on? How it made you feel. How, like in terms of empowerment, in terms of excitement, in terms of, I don't know, all the insights coming through, and how it made you or helped you feel on a daily basis, and in terms of your business also.
Okay. It's been a roller coaster, because with owning it, I've had to deal with a lot of resistance. Oh gosh, how on earth can you go out there and tell people you're a psychic businesswoman? This is the world we're talking about. But what it was actually doing was just bringing up old wounds from past lives that I needed to clear. It brought up stories of fear. It brought up all kinds of things. But the more I leaned into the trust part of it and go, Vicky, look at what you have achieved with your knowledge, your gifts. Look at the people you've helped. Look at the transformations you've made. Look at the people's lives you've changed. That was when I had to go, okay, so even though I do know I am really fucking amazing at what I do, and I am happy and very confident in my skin to deliver and to hold space, not just from a business development side of things, but also from a trauma-informed side of things. So I bring them both together, which again makes me quite unique. There aren't many business strategists and coaches that do trauma-informed therapy with you. So that was just something that I love to do. But I had to, I didn't want to I suppose the right words I'm looking for is, it hasn't given me I'm the best person on the planet and you will never find anybody like me. So there's no ego in this. It's all, I do what I do. If you want to come and work with me, great. My doors are open to explore where we could take you, but I'm not gonna sit on my pedestal and be that authoritative person with it because it's not in my personality type to do that. So when it says it makes me feel, well, it makes me feel like I'm a very different person sometimes. I do feel empowered with it because I can lean in to knowledge that other people can't. And it does give me an insight into tapping into things that are trending, um, the way that business is moving forward. I get insights before other people do. Not that I share much about that. I do keep a lot of it really quiet, to be fair. But to answer the question, how does it really make me feel? It makes me feel proud to know that I've finally owned my gifts,
Mm,
use them in a positive way to serve others. That's how it makes me.
exactly. I think this is the best feeling ever, knowing that you are actually giving somebody. I do believe, and because, I help people, I have a powerful system, selling system. And what I found, so I found leverage, first. And then I found that if you're not feeling that you're making a contribution in your sales process, it's really, really, really hard, even if you have leverage tools or system. Because as I like saying, selling is a social activity and it's for a reason. It goes back to our survival instinct, belonging, the need to belong, and fear of being abandoned and, things like that. So it's super important for us to feel that we are contributing in this mutual exchange.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're just gonna feel that you are taking money off people. That's why it gets really hard. So I think what you're talking about, what you're saying about finding your gifts is essential.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's not just about finding your gifts, it's about really knowing your core values and
Yeah.
really knowing that with all the best will in the world, you can hold space and you can be there for people. But if they don't want to work with you to do the job, then it's going to be a challenge for them even more so because a lot of people are looking for a quick fix. A lot of people are looking for oh well, I'm going to go and work with this person and suddenly I'm going to be a multimillionaire vibe. People want that instantaneous, oh, my life's going to change. But your life can only change if you're allowing it to change. So I've sat with so many clients where they're like, but I do want this. And I'm like, but are you doing this to help you embody and be this? Because you're still functioning from the past you or the current you that's living in the past you, that's still holding trauma, that's still holding fear, that's still holding resistance. Because if you don't want to work through the resistance to get through to the other side, then this is the story that's going to keep spinning. So we have to make those choices. And with all the best will in the world, we can't force people to move beyond that.
Yeah, and I think there's still lack of awareness that this underlying resistance exists.
Absolutely. So yeah,
Because people are distracted from all these, we do affirmations and we touched with you on manifestation, those kind of things. And people don't even realize, oh, affirmations actually, they don't work, but they make me feel bad.
yeah, affirmations are like, ugh, it breaks my heart to see people going, I'm doing my affirmations every day. I'm like, oh, good for you. But you're going to be really annoyed with yourself in the next 3 months, or maybe even 6 months, because you're tapping into these affirmations on a daily basis. And what's going to happen is nothing because you're not reprogramming the brain. You can repeat something to yourself 100 times over. If you're not changing the story in your brain, which is matching the vibration of the affirmation, then guess what? Nothing is going to change. And you're putting all of that effort in for nothing. Stresses me out, honestly, because I know there's a different way. And when I see people go, no, here's an affirmation for the day, go and do this. I really get cross with them. Anyway, So just to break down resistance, because this is something that I love to teach, and it is also in my book, if you want to go grab my book, and it's called Understanding the Difference Between Resistance and Misalignment. And
Mm,
the difference is very, very, very simple. Now, this is something that I discovered through my own journey, through my own research, through my own work with clients as well as myself. And resistance equals storytelling. If you are telling yourself a story, you are resisting the success that you desire. If you are in misalignment, you will have a feeling that something is missing, and then you need to go and do your research. Misalignment is not resistance. And I actually had a client once who pulled the plug on our work together because she was adamant that she was in misalignment when actually she was in resistance. She was resisting the success because of the fear rather than tapping into what
mm.
she could have achieved. And it was such a shame because she just wouldn't listen to me. She didn't want to know. And I was like, that I can't force it. I can only give you the information. So, but yeah. So the simple way to break down resistance is to know if you are telling stories, you are in resistance, and that's going to hold you back.
What kind of stories? Can you give an example?
Any story as to why you can't have what you want. Any
Okay.
story. So if
So
you're
it,
saying things like,
so for does that have to do with beliefs?
yes, it can be beliefs, it can be fear. It's going to be a fear-based story
Mhm.
more than anything else. So, are you going to go and make 10K months? Are you going to go and make 10K this month? On paper and through strategy, it's possible, but the brain goes, nah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you go, well, why is it not going to happen? And suddenly you have about 50 million stories all come alive. And then that in that moment, you are in resistance. You are resisting the success that's available to you. And it's your mind that's going to stop you from having the success that you desire if you carry on that story.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yep.
very often people don't even realize they are telling themselves that story.
They don't, but I've just given you a clue to help you realize that if you are telling a story which is fear-based or negative, filled with doubt, you're in
Yeah.
resistance, and that resistance will continue to hold you back.
Yeah. And
So,
the way I love seeing it is that if you are feeling the way you don't want to feel, means you are thinking something that is not true.
yes,
And that's where you need to go digging.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about alignment. So what is how unpack, can we unpack this a little
Mhm.
bit more?
Yeah. Okay. So, alignment. Alignment is when you are in flow. It doesn't mean you don't have challenges, but it just means let's talk about alignment and goals. You've written down a goal. It feels amazing. It excites you. It lights you up. It's one of those, want to go scream it from the rooftops. Maybe you've just created a brand new offer and it is so aligned to the way that you wanted to deliver, that you wanted to bring it together, the impact you want to have, the way that you want to create, the way that you want to show up. It's going to financially be beneficial as well as supportive to the client's needs. And all of a sudden, so that's the alignment, the excitement, the buzz, the calm confidence even. It doesn't need to be the excitement. It can be the calm confidence and you just know what you're going to do. You're happy flowing with it and everything's great. So that is alignment. When you are not in alignment, so you're in a space of misalignment, you'll be looking at it going, it's good, but it's not there yet. It's good, but something's missing. It's good,
Mm.
but, and as soon as you put the but in there, you're going to have to go in detective mode to figure out the missing piece. So whether that be a missing piece in your messaging, whether that be a missing piece in your pricing, maybe that be the missing piece in your mindset or belief system. Maybe there is something in the offer that you think, actually, I've got that in there, but I don't really want to do that. So there might be something that you need to go and tweak. If you are in resistance, you'll be looking at it going, yeah, it's great, but it's not for me. because you'll know
Mhm.
that it's good, you'll see that it's there, but you'll find stories and reasons as to why not you don't want to do it.
Right.
So alignment is the joy, it's the flow, it's the
I
excitement,
love this distinction.
confidence. It's the let's break it down, let's just simplify the process, let's just trust it. You don't have any pressure on the outcome. You just know that this is the place that you want to be going and leading with. The misalignment is a feeling that something is missing from it, like it's not quite there yet. Like if you're building a new product suite, offer, or there's something not quite right about a day that you've planned out, and then you go, yeah, that's it. I've got the missing key, and that's what I needed to bring in. And then the resistance is the fear-based stories. And if you have got the knowledge of this, you can change the dynamic of every launch, of every business model, of every marketing plan, of the whole thing. That's my
Wow,
belief.
I really, really love this distinction. And I've been talking about resistance and I've been talking about alignment, but I never really defined those two in a, such a way. They were kind of a smushed together kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this is really cool. I think I'm gonna use this distinction as well, to measure, so to speak.
Well, this is what I created. So I
Right.
created this method
It makes
through
sense.
my own journey. And it is in my book as well. So you can go and have a look at that.
Hmm.
But I do have another book that will be out. I'm not going to say when because there's a bit of an open ending on that at the minute. And the book title is actually The Power of Resistance and the Dangers of Misalignment. So
Wow, love
stay
it.
tuned for that one.
Wow, love that. Oh my God, this was fire. I absolutely love this. So what do you think causes misalignment for entrepreneurs?
Now, misalignment isn't just knowledge. It's just knowledge. It could be that you've downloaded this idea and you're sitting with it, but there's something else that hasn't quite landed yet. It could be that there's a different perspective that you need to look at. But misalignment isn't a negative. Misalignment is you need to be the detective, whereas resistance is different. If you're saying that you're in misalignment, but you're actually in resistance, you're just putting over a plaster on something and hoping you're going to fix it, and you're not. You're really not. So it's really important that you understand, am I in resistance or am I in misalignment? What is it that I need right now to move forward?
Do you think that most people are in both or either?
You can be in both, absolutely. Um, so with the, sorry, with with the misalignment, you've got, I'm really sorry, the dog's just distracted me. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so do you believe that, don't worry, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh,
Um, um, do you think that most people are in both
oh yes.
resistance and
Okay.
misalignment?
So yes, you can be in resistance and misalignment at the same time. And that's quite simple because if you are fearful of something, you're not going to be in alignment with it. So the fear can cause a misalignment. The storytelling can cause misalignment. But the misalignment is the mindset. What's
Mm.
missing from the excitement of what it is that I'm trying to achieve? Well, what's missing is my self-belief. So resistance and misalignment do go hand in hand, and you can have both. But unfortunately, we don't have an easy fix for that because it's personal to each individual, the situation and the circumstance, especially in entrepreneurship. So if you want to explore and you want to evolve, you're just going to have to get your detective hat on and think about, am I going to move through this and understand it, or am I going to stay stuck with it? And I
Mhm.
think that's the most important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think, and I believe the first step is the awareness
Yeah.
that this is happening. However, it's actually, correlates with my story as well. For a long time, I felt something was missing, a piece was missing. So obviously, there was resistance. And because of all the false beliefs and the societal conditioning,
Yeah.
those kind of things, and from, growing up, the way I was growing up and things like that. But then the misalignment piece, then I guess it actually just clicked for me. It's like it was one of those divine moments when it was a download, you
Yeah.
know. I knew something was missing, but I was looking at it from so many angles, but it wasn't something that I could intellectually unpack. It just had to land on my lap, which when it did, then so much resistance actually disappeared,
Yeah.
you know?
Because lack of clarity, misalignment can be lack of
That's
clarity, and then
it.
that can cause resistance.
That's it. So
So you've got the triangle, you've got the alignment, the misalignment, and the resistance, and they do all intertwine in their own way. But sometimes, like my clients be like, Vicky, I can't get the answers that I'm looking for. And I'm like, why are you trying? The more you're trying to get the answers, the less those answers are going to come.
I have to say, like even this yesterday, it was Sunday, I was doing nothing, or it looked like I was doing nothing. And I had such a big, huge insight. Now I can't wait to go and implement it. So
Yeah.
that one shift is causing, when I was not actually working, sitting at my laptop, caused such a big ripple
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
It's massive, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm saying, right? So the freedom is not a destination, it's the path.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is. And the pathway isn't always going to be as plain sailing as you want it to be, because entrepreneurship isn't about just building a business. Entrepreneurship isn't just about being strategic. Entrepreneurship is about personal development. It's about spiritual involvement. It's about trusting the intuition that comes down to you. It's about trusting those new ideas and which ones to run with and which ones to park. It's about looking at the pathway ahead of you and knowing which one's going to have the biggest impact. It's about taking your own leadership and
Mm.
discerning from, it could be this or it could be that, but I'm willing to do the work to discover what that is. And that's why entrepreneurship is so much more exciting than going into employment or going into just a very traditional business model.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs aren't looking for that anymore. They're looking for dopamine hits because most of them have got ADHD. They're looking for creativity. They're looking for being different, because most entrepreneurs don't want to sit in the middle of the crowd just swimming swimming in the sea with a school of fish, or being one of the sheep. They want to be the black sheep. They want to stand out,
Mm.
do things differently. They want to be change makers. They want to be thought leaders. They want to be inspirational. They want to be motivational. But you can't do that when you are confined by other things. So entrepreneurship is never going to be a plain sailing journey, but it will always be
Yes,
path of fun.
there is such a big distinction between manufacturing uniqueness and differentiation, and I can speak a lot about that, and I'm an expert on those things as a marketing geek, as marketing and selling expert. I used to do those things. Yeah, I used to do those things, differentiation through thinking, coming up with angles, whatever. But then how much more powerful it is when it actually comes from within. And
Exactly.
then that's when you are actually truly unique without any effort.
Yeah.
And that's when the whole idea of, well, niching and all those kind of things, they are important, but your internal driver for who you want to serve needs to come first, right? Because, and that's when you realize, oh, so people who I can help are gonna find me,
Yes, that's it.
right? Yeah, that's super, super cool. I'm so excited about this topic that you know.
Well, I just hope it's been helpful, and I hope there's been enough insight to get people's cogwheels turning a little bit more into trusting their inner wisdom, their inner gifts, and letting that lead the way a little
You
bit.
know, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, you know, there are so many layers and we could be chatting about this stuff
Hours.
forever, right? The one thing I want, you know, I was putting down notes where when we first chatted and you know, you mentioned marketing as manifestation tool.
Yes, absolutely.
So that sounds like really, really cool. So, talk to me about that a little bit.
Okay, so over the last 12 years in business, marketing has been a very big part of what I do and how I help clients because my creative brain is non-stop. It's absolutely
Mm,
non-stop.
mm.
And then as I've evolved with my spiritual journey, I've come to the realization that if you are not marketing, if you are not marketing, you are not manifesting. And it was like, oh, how did that land? Well, it's landed in one of two ways. One, where people think to manifest is you just put an intention out to the universe and it lands on your lap. That's bullshit, by the way. If anybody's thinking that, get it out your head. Never going to work. I am a law of attraction advanced practitioner. It doesn't happen that way. Okay. So scrap that. You have to take action if you want to manifest. Action is manifestation, which means marketing is manifesting because marketing is visibility. Marketing is attracting dream clients. Marketing is getting seen as the expert. Marketing is leadership. Marketing is the manifestation tool. And you can do it in a variety of different ways. We do marketing through podcasts, networking, blog posts, social media posts, relationship building. You can then go off into the real world and do other terms of marketing. You've got marketing such as flyers, leaflets. And if you put out 5,000 leaflets and you get 10 new clients back, you've just manifested 10 new clients because you did the freaking work. Okay.
Yes. And also, I think it's because the way I see marketing and selling, it's actually delivering value to the marketplace.
Yes, that's it.
It's like, I mean, that's how you connect the you with the them, with your audience, with the people who you want to reach, who you want to be heard by.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is where we get to say yes or no. So, one thing that I find is when my clients are resisting marketing, it's not that they're resisting marketing, they're resisting the external goal that they've set themselves because they haven't aligned to it. They
Yeah.
haven't aligned to it, and then they allow, and don't get me wrong, hands are up here, and I have experienced this firsthand. You get overwhelmed by the marketing because you think you have to do it all rather than sitting there and going, well, actually, if I focus on these three things in my marketing because they're fun, they're easy, and they're impactful, that's going to have a bigger insight in your marketing strategy than just sitting there and going, well, I've got a blog to do, I've got a podcast to do, I've got social media posts that I have to go out 2 to 3 times a day, then I've got to update stories, then I need to go and do the engagement, then I've got to do my email marketing, then I've got to do the SEO. And you just think, no, calm down. Unless you have a whole team that can support or a marketing assistant that does with all those things, stop it. Focus on the things that work for you. And this is where I get to channel for my clients as well, because I'll tell them which platforms they need to go on. Go and do that platform and you will fly. I had one client, she was on 3,000 followers on TikTok. I told her she needed to go and amplify TikTok. Within a month, 40,000 followers.
Hmm.
So it's just get playful with your business, is all I can say.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Wow, this was, like I said, spicy, like I said in the beginning. So thank you very much. And I always ask 3 blitz questions.
Okay.
Everyone on my podcast gets asked. Nothing to worry about. Very easy, very quick. And whatever comes through first. So the first one is, when you hear from grind to grace, what goes through your mind?
What goes through my mind is releasing the hustle and stepping into your power.
Yeah, very true. It's big, huge part of
Yeah.
this whole topic, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, the next one is, what change would you like to see in the world?
I would love to see more businesses, entrepreneurs, and even corporates. I know there's a few B Corp organizations that do this, but they actually bring in the spiritual connection of people, stop suppressing people, stop boxing them, and actually give them the ability to be creative. Now, I'm just going to expand a little bit more on that one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, I've created a certification and it's called Soul Aligned Offers and Sales Strategist. And the reason that I created that was because I wanted to showcase the possibility with creating offer suites and sales to maximize profits and income without the shoebox, without the tick box, without the you have to have this and you have to have that. I'm specifically training my students, which are very, very close to completing the first cohort at the moment, and the difference between doing it their way and doing it the way they've been told to do.
Mm.
All about breaking and unlearning and shifting and transforming. So if you can change the way that you've been taught to do things and allow your creativity to lead the way, you will thrive every
Yes.
single time. And I've just proven it with this new certification that I've done again. So it's another little win in the background there. But yeah, I
Yeah,
just want
love
everyone
that.
to
Love
lead.
that. Love that. And you know what I love, when I tell people just stop, and basically that very day they step into freedom, because without it, it's not gonna fly. It hasn't worked until now. So what do you think? What do you think are you gonna do at this stage? Just stop,
Yeah,
right? Even if it's for a week, just stop it.
exactly.
Because obviously that unpacking the insights, getting all the insights, it actually can take some time.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
might feel quite uncomfortable to just stop.
Yeah.
You know?
But the second you do stop is when
Yeah,
you start letting go of the grind and you step into that grace
yeah.
because you are then aligned with the universe. There's space, there's white space for spirit and information and downloads, and it hasn't been working because you didn't give us the space to communicate with you.
It's infinite.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah. Oh,
Okie dokie, love that. And the last one is, what impact would you personally like to make on the world? And I think you touched on that, but if you want to add something.
so the impact that I want to make is through my journey in entrepreneurship the second time round. I would like to impact the hearts of over 100,000 entrepreneurs. I would like to see them leaning into their own spiritual gifts so that the next generation and the generations after that allow spirituality to be the normal. And it's not about religion at all. This is about inner wisdom. And I can't stress that enough. It's not about conforming to anybody else other than listening to the heart-centered love of the intuition and the guidance that comes forward. We are raising a generation that are very spiritually awake, more spiritually awake than previous generations. And we need to be holding space for them to thrive. And if we don't do it now and we don't start spreading our wings now, we're setting our next generations up to fail. So that's my mission. That's the one I'm on. That's why
I
we're
love it. I
going
love
all
it.
in.
And just to add also, AI is coming. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's
here. That's
it's
it. It's landed.
very it's high time to start digging into what makes us human,
Mhm.
because AI will be taking over a lot of things, I believe.
Absolutely.
So who's gonna
Yeah.
stand out? How are we gonna stand out? By being human. And what does it mean, you know? Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. So now, so you've mentioned a few things about how you help people. If you want to add something, if you can add, and also where people can find you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So you can find me on www.vickichisholm.com. It's a very simple website. You can find web chats and things on there to come and get involved. You'll have access to my courses, and you can also book a free psychic business audit if you're in alignment to checking out some support. I have a free Facebook group, which is the Psychic CEO. And you can also find me on Instagram. I am Vicki Chisholm. And if you do love reading, you could go to Amazon and check out my book. It's called Radically Aligned. You can't miss it because it's a small female on a pink motorbike on the front cover. And last but not least, my podcast is also called Radically Aligned Business. So go and check it out. And thank you so much, Adita, for having me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure to connect and chat with you. And I look forward to hearing more about the podcast.
And you too. Thank you so much. It was really cool. I feel we could do another one, so we'll see. Yeah, it was very insightful. Some very important nuggets as well. And everyone else who's listening, thank you for tuning in. And please follow and spread this and, you know, share, because if not you, then who? So as I mentioned, this is a mission. We need to flip the script. So that's how we do it, by sharing, by giving this to others. And thank you again, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye now.